Hey, what's going on, guys? Blood Phantom 81 here. Today, I'll be talking about the number one most annoying or most common mistake that I see new investors make. And this is something that I hear all the time when I'm talking to new investors, even people that I told to start investing. So it's always really exciting when you can convince someone to start investing, especially if they haven't before. But I hear this pretty often, not just with those people that I talk to, but others that maybe I haven't talked to previously, but they're just talking about their portfolios and maybe they want some advice on their portfolio or something like that. And so that mistake is that if you have a small portfolio, you should stick to stocks that have a small share price, or basically only buying stocks with small share prices because they're cheap. And so, yeah, I'll just talk about why I think that's odd. But um, before I do that, I'll talk about why I can sympathize with that. So, I mean, I guess yeah, that makes sense. If you have a $200 portfolio, you definitely can't afford Amazon. You can't afford Netflix. You probably can't afford Facebook, or maybe yeah, a lot of those stocks. And there's also a lot of stocks that are around maybe like $50 or $80, and maybe you don't want to buy just two shares of something. So then that in that sense, you stick to stocks that are cheap for two reasons. So number one, you can buy a lot of shares, and so it feels like you're investing more money. It feels like you're getting the better deal. And then number two, all those other stocks that we talked about are all pretty much are all really high, and they're all talked about already, and they're pretty much not going to grow that much compared to something that's like $5 or $10 or something like that. So that's basically like the kind of mindset that I think people believe in, and so that's kind of why they buy stocks with a small share price. When in reality, something with a small share price doesn't mean it's cheap, because the market cap of something is the shares outstanding times the share price. So even something with with the share price of $5 could still be pretty expensive if the valuation is pretty close to the current market cap. And I guess the idea is that these new investors, they really want to hit the home run because they want to get a stock that's undiscovered yet, as if they're going to hold that thing for the next 20 years, which I don't think is true either. Like, I think if you're starting investing, you have basically like, 50-50 chance of even continuing on for the next 6 months, and then an even less chance to be profitable for the next year. And that's just how it is with new investors. I see new investors go for penny stocks, then they realize that they're trash, and then they realize that they suck at investing, or the stock market is rigged or manipulated, and then they stop, and then they give up or whatever. And that's definitely not everybody. I know there's a lot of people that make a killing on their first 6 months or year or whatever. So good for those people, but I'm just saying this kind of mentality isn't really great for new investors. And so honestly, the bottom line is, if even if your account's $200, I would rather that person buy one share of Microsoft and one share of something else, and just get your 15% a year, instead of going for a stock that's under $20 just for the sake of getting it. Because a lot of the times those stocks aren't great. The only stocks that I would recommend under $50 are the market ETFs. Either that, or maybe some. There are some stocks with long-term uptrends that are still under $10, but those are definitely rare, and those aren't the stocks that people usually invest in when they're talking about cheap stocks. So I usually, if I see that someone has a small account and they can only afford maybe a few shares of something that's $50, then I would look for market ETFs. I think there's one called FDL that's pretty cheap. There's probably a couple others that I can link in the description below. But yeah, that's kind of how I respond when someone says that. Although like I'm not rude or anything like that, I just like I kind of like roll my eyes internally when I hear people say that. But anyway, so that's it for this video. Let me know your guys' most annoying and most commonly heard, yeah, I guess, untrue idea about the stock market or investing that you guys hear when you're talking about it with your friends or coworkers or colleagues and all that stuff. But yeah, anyway, I hope you have a great day. I thought I'd do kind of a fun video today, and good luck trading.